Hi folks, this is all the fruit, and here I have the black elderberry. A very common shrub throughout temperate to cold areas of Europe, but I've been searching for a good shrub for a video for weeks. Why is this so? Well, our plants were quite stressed by drought stress most of last summer and also parts of this summer, so the early ripening elderberry shrubs which were in the sun usually did not have a lot of berries, and the ones which had a lot of berries were either not really ripe or more in the shade. But here finally I found one which is pretty loaded and which is in a sunny enough spot. So the elderberry, Sambucus nigra, is a plant which is quite widespread in the temperate to cool areas in Europe. And also, even quite warm areas. For example, in Malta, there are no wild elderberry plants, but I've seen them cultivated a lot. In North America, you have the very similar Sambucus canadensis, which I've seen all the way down to the Caribbean. In Guadeloupe they cultivate it, and I think it's also spread into South America. Well, elderberries. They are probably the most useful part of the tree, although a lot of this plant is useful. For example, cats use it to sharpen their claws because the bark is so soft that it seems to be much more pleasant for the cat to sharpen its claws on elderberry bark than on any other bark. So when you find an elderberry, not like here, an elderberry plant surrounded by fences and shrubs, but when you find one in the open, on a meadow or surrounded by naked soil or pavement, you will usually find pieces of cat claws around it because the cats sharpened their claws there. I read this, and the next day I checked it. Yeah, it's true. I found some pieces of cat claws around it. What can you also use it for? Well, the stems are hollow, so you can use them to make flutes, to make other small tubes you need for a lot of stuff. But the use of the elderberry wood is restricted not only by it being quite soft, but also by a lot of superstitions. There are a lot of positive connotations connected with the elderberry, but also a lot of negative ones. And there are a lot of superstitions throughout Central Europe and other parts that you are not supposed to cut it down for different reasons. So even if you cut it down, you are not supposed to use it for children's cribs, for furniture, for floorboards, for burning, and so on and so on. Yeah, but those two superstitions, I guess that most of them are forgotten by now, but not the many uses of the elderberry. You can take the flowers and make really nice syrups and teas and even pancakes out of them. And when the fruit are ripe, you can use them like any other fruit, if you observe a couple precautions, because parts of the plant are toxic. Well, leaves and stems and even those stalks of the berries, they are all quite toxic. Also the seeds are toxic. Yeah, some websites describe the symptoms as nausea and general unwellness. Well, one teacher told me once his class ate them and then they all started puking. Yeah. The berries, the ripe berries, are actually not really toxic, but yeah, the stalks they hang on, and also the seeds are. The seeds, like a lot of other fruit seeds, they contain cyanide or chemical compounds which turn into cyanide. Well, why? Because the plant produces those juicy fruits so that the birds eat them, but they are not supposed to chew on the seeds because the seeds are supposed to come out the other end unharmed. That's why a lot of those plant seeds, they have a lot of cyanide. So yeah, eating the fruit raw can cause some trouble. But if you make them into juices, liquors, wine, and other stuff, if you heat them and process them, usually all those problems disappear. Well, they taste kind of sourish, bitterish. That's because they contain a lot of tannins and different acids. They also contain some alkaloids, but still they are pretty popular. As I said, I've seen it cultivated even in subtropical to almost tropical areas. Guadeloupe is actually tropical, Malta is subtropical. Yeah, people that cultivate it because it's a pretty important medicinal plant and because they want to have the nice berry products like juices, syrups, wines, and so on. Now let's try a few of the ripe berries. The ripe berries are supposed to be good for you. Here we have a few ripe berries. What do they taste like? Phew. Well, at least one of them tasted fermented. No. Some other ones, well, sour and with this typical elderberry flavor, which is a little bit nauseating, a little bit strange, but you can use to it. Phew. Phew. How should I describe it? Yes, sour. No bitterness. But yeah, the strange, undescribable elderberry flavor. How do you describe a flavor which you only know from elderberries? Not too bad, but an acquired taste. Yeah. So, I guess the plant will not hurt you if you just eat a couple of the berries and spit out the seeds without chewing and swallowing them. But if you like the taste and want to use it in larger amounts, better collect the berries, remove them from the stalks before processing, and then heat them and then make them into jams, juices, preserves. I made liquor from them, I made syrup from them, I made jam from them. They're also good for coloring a lot of stuff. You can color foodstuffs with the colorful berries. You can even color fabric with the colorful berries. It's quite a useful plant. Try a few berries. If you like the taste, then you can attempt to make some preserves from it. I think it's really worth the trouble. I did it for years. Okay, folks, this was the elderberry shrub, Sambucus nigra. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the countryside of Heidelberg. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.